My name is Daryel. I manage the Cloud Service Operations Group at Irdeto. That group consists of a Service Operations Center, which I will talk a bit about today throughout the presentation. I also have a SysOps team who look after second line support and maintenance of many of our AWS platforms. And I also have a DevOps team who work alongside product and engineering teams within Irdeto to build CI/CD platforms and automation into many of our services and products. I'm joined today by Steve. Steve's an incident manager within the Service Operations Center, but he also leads a lot of our development and integration efforts with Splunk and many of our other tools in our suite. A typical day with me and Steve is, I'll read some buzzwords online, I'll ask Steve can he implement them, and he just walks away from me. So today we're going to talk a little bit about our journey from being a reactive support organization to a full proactive end-to-end service monitoring group. We're going to talk about some of the tools to help enable us to do that. And Steve's going to give you guys a deep dive demo, which is the interesting part of the presentation, about actually the features we've set up in VictorOps and how Irdeto have utilized them. And we'll give you a brief sneak peek into what we're working on next. And there'll be time for Q&A at the end, of course. Yeah, so we're from a company called Irdeto. Essentially, we're a cybersecurity company protecting systems and people from cyber attacks. We have 15 offices worldwide in 15 different countries, and our HQ is in Hoofddorp in the Netherlands. We have over 50 years security experience, and we secure today over 5 billion devices worldwide. We serve two exciting markets, one in video entertainment, which we pair up with content owners to help secure content and media, essentially to protect our customers' revenue and interest and brand. In connected industry, in the IoT fields, we offer security solutions for software, and we help our customers fend off attacks from hackers and other things like that. So essentially, protecting our customers' intellectual property using Irdeto's products and services. And here's just, we work with some of the biggest brands in video entertainment and connected industries at the moment, and here's just a brief overview of some of them here. So, the Service Operations Center, it's a 24/7 organization. We support many of Irdeto's products and services. At the moment, we look after 25 services with over 100 customers and over 100 AWS accounts. I have 16 engineers within the team. They work 3 shifts daily, 365 days a year. So the SOC never sleeps, never rests, never gets to enjoy public holidays. The incident manager, or there's an incident manager group within the Service Operations Center with Steve a part of, and they will support the SOC team with critical incident response, but also work with internal teams and customers to onboard new products and services. We were established in 2013, primarily to increase our service delivery capabilities and offer a better service offering for our products. In the past, a customer would call into Irdeto and report an issue. And by the time we would register that incident, figure out what was going on, and provided a solution, it just took far too long, and we were often outside of SLA. I saw this frustration firsthand. I was in STM at the time, managing our EMEA customers in the video entertainment business. And on this particular occasion, I was traveling to the UK to do a monthly service report, and we recently had a massive incident on that customer's platform. So we talked about what we were going to do to kind of mitigate against that incident in the future and what improvement items we're going to address to get a better turnaround for that incident. But at that moment in time, we just didn't have the insight into our platform, so I knew we were close. We were going to have another bad incident, and that customer's trust in us was going to go down. I didn't know that that incident would occur when I was flying back home that evening. So when I landed down in Amsterdam, turned on the phone, got a missed call from my boss, not good. Missed call from my boss's boss, definitely not good. And then a flood of messages from my colleagues. So we had the same issue. And unfortunately, the resolution time was the same. We were outside SLA again. So we had to kind of accelerate where we wanted to go. We wanted to accelerate getting insight into our data, providing that proactive approach. Things can and will go wrong in operations. It's how you respond to that really sets us apart. And we say that in the sense that for a lot of our big customers, there's many Irdetos in that ecosystem. A lot of support organizations in that ecosystem. And we wanted to be the best support possible for our customers. So since 2013, we're kind of building a new culture focused on proactivity, performance, and customer satisfaction. And we needed the right tools to do that, which I'll talk about throughout this presentation. So fast forwarding a bit, so what do we do today? We consider it a failure if a customer contacts us to report an outage or a major issue on their platform. We've spent a lot of time and effort developing our event management processes, our incident management processes, to effectively deal with a critical or major issue on our platforms from a proactive standpoint. We can identify an issue, hopefully resolve it before it becomes a big problem for our customers. But we also have to think that we need to tell our customers when there's an issue so they can kick off their internal processes as well. We look at two areas, essentially. Quality of service is essentially what's our SLAs, what's our key KPIs, what's the success versus failure, and other relevant data that is needed to be served for the success of the solution. We also look at quality of experience. So how well the platform is performing. What's the latency? Have we the right capacity set up for this particular customer? So in recent years, our biggest wins have actually been identifying issues on the customer side. So we might see a drop in traffic to Irdeto platforms. We might see some video streams or video content stream failures in the SOC. And we'll give the customer a call and say, hey guys, I think there's an issue on your side. And they go, well, we didn't see that. And then we work with them. And again, thinking back to the start when we were reactive, now we're actually proactive, letting customers know when there's issues in their infrastructure. And we've been building partnerships based on that way. So they kind of trust the SOC, trust Irdeto, that we have the eyes and ears, not only on our platform serving their customers, but also looking at their infrastructure and offerings. Yeah, so incident management. The SOC constitutes a single point of entry for all incidents. Not everything can be critical and major, so we do have ticketing systems for our customers to log issues with us. The SOC will triage that, and if they can solve it or respond to the customer, they will. If not, they will route it to the correct team. We triage all events across our infrastructure. If the SOC deem an event to be critical to a particular product, service, whatever it may be, they will initiate the critical response. So they'll call an incident manager. The incident manager will take command of the incident, coordinate all activities until resolution, and ensure that communication to the right people, customers, is done. Once the incident is closed, it's up to the incident manager to produce the incident report, which details the timeline, the service impact, the RCA, the service improvement actions. And you'll see in Steve's demo later how VictorOps helps build that incident report for us. Once a new service goes live into the SOC, we are the focal point for all communications around changes, incidents, anything the customer needs from Irdeto. We use many tools to do that, probably too many, but we do tailor our services for our customers. But for us, when communication is at its most important is when we partner up with our customers for what we call HPEs, which would be high-profile events. So our customers, they have large events like Super Bowl, English Premier League, Formula One racing, the Rugby World Cup which is on at the moment, or popular shows like the Game of Thrones. So we would partner with our customers on a conference bridge during those events, just sharing information about what we're seeing, what they're seeing, and generally just contributing to a successful event. For reporting, we work alongside our service delivery managers to build SLA reports, platform statistics, any metrics that's going to be relevant for our customers' operation. And we use Splunk to do that because that's where all the data is. So we send out reports on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We've onboarded 25 services in recent years, and we spend a lot of time in KPI development. We work with engineering teams and internal IT teams to establish what are the KPIs for your service, how are they important, and how are we going to build a monitoring framework around that for the SOC to be successful. So, why VictorOps? We have a vast infrastructure which generates a hell of a lot of events and traffic. And we needed a tool with a feature set that was going to help us with the war on white noise. We needed a feature set that was going to help us make informed decisions, allow a more independent first-line team to solve issues when they come in. We needed that information, we needed those playbooks. One of those features that was really important is the rules engine. So we now can apply logic on the VictorOps side to take on all this volume of events that's coming in and transform that into such a manner that a SOC engineer can make a better decision, making 24/7 easier. We're thinking about 5 a.m. in the morning when everyone else is asleep. Can we send the right information to these guys to do their jobs so we're not waking people up at night? In 24/7, in such a fast-paced environment, our platforms change, our customers change, our processes change. It was really important that we could have a feature that could build playbooks. So we've invested a lot of time in the alert annotation feature that VictorOps provide. And from here, we build our playbooks custom to customers, bespoke to platforms, and then keeping up with the ever-changing processes. So this could be wiki documentation, AWS platform information, process information, just anything that's going to help you do your job when you get an alert on a platform. For me in management, it's quite important to understand where we're spending our time and effort. So with a connection or integration between VictorOps and Splunk, we regularly review who are the top talkers in our infrastructure, what customers are causing the most events on our platforms, and then use that data to kind of drive priority calls and continuous improvement activities on those platforms or those products or those services. So of course, the SOC can't solve everything. We do rely on other great teams within Irdeto to support us being successful. We've utilized the escalation schedule and policies within VictorOps to help us identify the right person at the right time to solve an issue. And this is sped up greatly. But on the flip side, we can also give data very quickly to these people now that so will help them diagnose and fix the issue. Now, we're not saying we didn't have escalation schedulers in the past, but it did cost time to figure out who supported who supported which platform product, etc. So we already had a large enough monitoring framework when we embarked on our decision to get a new event management tool. So we're looking for a tool that had many native integrations for what we already used, and thankfully, VictorOps satisfied those needs for the large part. So here's a couple of stats from VictorOps at Irdeto. We've 7K events per month. This is down considerably over the last couple of years, and considering we have brought on new services as well, but still too much. There's too many non-actionable alerts that my guys are spending time and energy on. So Steve's going to show you guys what we're doing in that area in the demo to kind of drive that number down further. We have alert rules set up at the moment. Again, so many product services and processes, we have to build so many playbooks for us to be successful. We just don't want to route tickets to second and third line teams. We want to actually add value to everything we do. We have 10 application integrations set up, and that's from CloudWatch to Nagios to Pingdom to SolarWinds to Jira to Slack, among others. We have 25 routing keys set up, and a routing key essentially is 25 systems sending data into VictorOps. Without a management tool, you can imagine how difficult it is to manage data across all those platforms. And as I mentioned, we have teams all over Irdeto, from security to DBAs to engineering to DevOps, all plugged in, using VictorOps, reducing the time to get escalation, get the help we need, and get things solved. So, introducing VictorOps at Irdeto, what's changed for us? In the past, we relied heavily on Nagios infrastructure monitoring. So servers up, servers down, we get OS metrics like CPU, memory, storage information. But if there was an issue, it was very hard to correlate that against the overall service, because our platforms are many different connecting services within the platform, right? And then, which is very painful if anyone's ever done it in this room, is that we actually have people logging onto servers, checking logs, and trying to figure out what's going on. So you can imagine why we were outside of SLA in our resolution times I mentioned earlier. It was just too slow to get the information and how that connected to everything else. So the evolution, what we first did with Splunk, we aggregated all our data into a central place. That gave us the insights. That enabled better troubleshooting, which in turn allowed us to solve issues quicker. From there, we developed KPIs, dashboarding, all relevant for the overall operation of that service. So we could now build our alerting and our monitoring framework in a more proactive approach, because we could actually see what was going on from an end-to-end point of view. From there, we brought in VictorOps, and from there, all events now are funneled through VictorOps, and with the logic that VictorOps features provide, we can actually now automatically create incidents. Whereas in the past, a SOC engineer would have to qualify an event, turn it into an incident, and then manually register it somewhere. So too much time when you have to solve issues with a tight SLA. Taking us up to our present framework here, at the central point is Splunk and VictorOps. Without the insight Splunk gave us into our platform, and without the logic VictorOps allowed us to make actionable decisions and actionable alerts, there's no way we would have came from a reactive state all the way to a full end-to-end proactive organization. And we're not done yet. We probably hit the wall in terms of what we're doing at the moment. Now our next evolution is to get smarter with our data, smarter with our alerting, and smarter with the actionable data or alerts that were coming in, which Steve is going to talk about now in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it over to Steve.
Thanks, Daryl. So, as Daryl said, I'm Steve, one of the incident managers, and guy they shout at when they need anything done with Splunk. So, for our project rollout, I'm going to talk about a few of the stages that we looked at. So, in our initial planning stage, we performed a full audit of all our services and platforms that we were monitoring and getting data from to ensure that when we did migrate to VictorOps, that nothing was missed. We also removed any legacy systems that were no longer in use, that had just been providing white noise to our engineers. We looked at the integrations that were available with VictorOps. We evaluated what was good for us and what would make sense for us to use, and the added value they provided. Another part of that phase was the scheduling. So we had to get our teams on board. We had to plan out to onboard the team leads, so they give them time to get their teams set up on VictorOps, familiar with how it was used, and their schedules and rotations in place. So the onboarding stage is probably one of the hardest, as you might know, getting anybody to get behind any new product is tough. We started this off with some of the teams that we work closely with who could see the added value of having de-escalation policies and their on-call rotations in an easy-to-reference location. This made a huge difference with getting the rest of our organization behind VictorOps and on board. We're still onboarding teams and new products and services a year later, and I don't think we will be stopping anytime soon. The refinement stage, this is the never-ending story of this project. We're always looking to improve on what we're doing and how we're doing it. We want to make our engineers' lives as easy as possible and ensure that we deliver the best possible experience to our customers and their end users. That's pretty much the rollout stages and the project planning. So I'm going to just dive into the demo now. So I don't know how many of you will have Splunk or VictorOps already. So I'm just going to talk you through some of the basic setup stages, how easy it is to get VictorOps your Splunk talking to your VictorOps, and vice versa. So for setting up the VictorOps application, it's available on Splunk base. You can either download it from here, or you can install it directly from your Splunk instance. Once you've installed and your Splunk instance restarted, just as a note, you will need to open port 443 to allow communication. But once you've installed set up, you'll go to the application and you'll see a screen like this. So for this stage, I'm just going to go to our VictorOps. As you can see here, this is just a list of some of the integrations that VictorOps have available. I'm sure this is increasing as they bring on more products and services. So for integrating Splunk into VictorOps, it's a very straightforward and simple process. As you can see here, there's just a service API endpoint and this variable here, a routing key. I'll talk a bit more about the routing keys as we go on, but I'll just show you now what we need here. So I'm just going to copy the API key. And so in the routing keys, I've created one previously for this, so it's conf alerting here, so I'm just going to use that for setting this up. Excuse my typos if I make any. I'm pasting the API key, and I just type in my routing key, and we are set up once this loads. So now to test it and to ensure that this is working, so this is successfully sent an alert, and now I just need to go back to my timeline of VictorOps, and I can see the test alerts here. So that's now we have our Splunk talking to VictorOps, we can see our alerts feeding in. So when we set up these alerts, so just how to get your alerts actioning and actually sending in, we've set up the link and how to make these activities work. So you just go to edit your actions on your alert, and you can just add your VictorOps action to that. So as you can see, I've made some quite noisy alerts for conf, just so I could see data coming in and show it resolving, but I'll talk more about that in future. So here's just a VictorOps action that we add to our alert. So we can set the different severity levels, our tools. If we want to give it a specific entity ID or the different display name based on the alert, we can do that here. If we want to convey any information, what this is monitoring, to the engineers, we can do that in the state message. And down here, you can see the routing key that we created already. And once this is saved, now all these alerts that are triggering to VictorOps will have that routing key set up by default. And if we want to make other alerts based on different services, we can override the default routing key by just setting a new one there. So now we have our basic Splunk and VictorOps integrated. The ITSI integration with VictorOps is very straightforward. It's the exact same process, but you just have a little more work to do when you're configuring your alerts. So I'm just going to quickly dive into some of what we have to do for that as well. So this is just one of the services we've defined at ITSI for conf. So as you can see here, we have I'm just looking at one of the KPIs here. So we're using adaptive thresholding on this. So once we have set our thresholding levels, so this is over a time policy, and we're using standard deviation. So once we have the different levels here for our critical high, medium, and low, and have that set up and saved, we're ready to go. So once we have all our thresholding set up for the KPIs, we can go into our action rules for our notable event aggregation policy. So this is fed in, excuse me. And from here, this is where we can tell VictorOps to manage these alerts that are feeding in. So with these action rules, we can change severity based on the live data that Splunk is monitoring. So if the severity changes from a critical incident back to a medium or resolves itself, this will reflect in our VictorOps timeline. This reduces the number of white noise or how long our engineers are looking This also makes a difference for me in my role as incident manager, so I can track from the very start of an incident to the end using the incident reviews, how that progressed and when it was resolved. There are a number of other actions you can do with this. So you're able to assign the alert to, or the incident to people. You can trigger a script based on the alert. So if you have a script that will resolve this, something like a NTP drift, you can trigger that script from here to resolve the issue. And of course, that will make changes and will be reflected in your VictorOps timeline. So now that we've gone through, we have our ITSI and our Splunk feeding in alert series. You can see I've got some alerts that have just been causing a lot of noise on our sandbox since we set them up by design. But as you can see, just looking through the timeline here, we have some critical incidents, we have some info level warning, and we have some self-resolving incidents that are recorded here. So you have the recovery for one of them, and this is all just based on our thresholding that we've set up in ITSI. So some of the other great integrations that we've set up, so we're actually feeding our VictorOps data back into Splunk. So this allows us to generate dashboards and reports based on the activity of our engineers in VictorOps. This is because our team are familiar with Splunk. We wanted to be able to generate some visualizations based on this, and with the help of VictorOps, we were able to configure this outgoing webhook, which sends our data, and we can generate a dashboard based on this. This is a very straightforward setup. Again, it's an API key, but we're using the HTTP event collector, or HEC, where you just get your token. So I'm just going to talk you through. So you get a new token. It's very straightforward. You just follow the steps while you're doing it. So, and these are optional values. You don't need to change anything here. And from here, you can change your source type, depending on what browser you want it in, and then index you're sending it to. Because of what I set this up, I'm just going to go back to where we were. Or not. So now that we have our token here, if you go back, if I show you the outgoing webhook from here, so this is feeding all the data that are represented in our VictorOps alert. These are all the different fields that you will see if you click on the alert body or the alert messages. So here, I'm just going to edit this one to show you. So just for your HTTP event collector address is set here. So for us, we're actually using a internet-facing ELB in AWS to reduce which is only whitelisting the ports and IP addresses that are needed for this communication. This just to ensure that it is secure and safe and no unwanted actions can come true. And now that we have our VictorOps and our Splunk talking to each other and feeding each other their data, just to show you some of the one of the dashboards that we've created for this just shows some of the information and how our agents are doing. So this is all based off our sandbox, so none of our engineers are actively monitoring this. But I just give you an example of some of the different incidents and how they've been resolved over this just last 4 hours. And some of the value that you can add to your company from this. So for this, we can create reporting based on the man time to acknowledge or time to resolve of incidents. We can also identify any alerts that are triggering way too often. So if we see an incident or an alert that is triggering, as you can see here, 203 times in the last 4 hours, that means there's something wrong with that alert trigger, and that needs to be looked at by me and my team to figure out, to ensure that we're effective in our alerting and we're not causing unneeded white noise to our engineers. You can also track the number of users that are paged, so how long an alert is left sit there for it to escalate. So that's just one of the sample dashboards that we're running. With a lot of help from VictorOps, we were able to generate this. So I've talked about the routing keys and different services. So as you can see here, this is just a sample of some of the routing keys we set up. So with the routing keys, we can use this to differentiate based on a product or service or customer. So we can have a more generic alerting and then use values that are provided in that alert to identify who it's for, what service. And it's just using the routing key and then the escalation policies are based on these routing keys. So say for the databases, we know that we can set the database engineer team to be escalated to if this is a critical incident comes in. So they will be notified immediately of this. This speeds up our time to get involved in an incident and our time to resolve this. So one of the other great features is the rules engine. This allows us to generate some actionable playbooks for our engineers. So as a 24/7 operation, we have our engineers who are there. They could be there at 6 a.m. and anybody can face a bit of tiredness. So we want to make it an easy and quick reference for them to identify who they need to contact, what they need to do, and the steps they need to follow. So some of the examples, so for like a stealth watch routing key here that we just have, I have a link to our security team, so our engineers will know who they need to contact, the correct steps for them based on the severity or the type of incident that's fed, security incident that's fed into it. This allows us to be quicker in our response and be more effective in ensuring our customers get the correct support. We also have, based on the names or routing keys or other values that you can feed in here, you can differentiate based on product. So this is one of our products, and this will link to the support product page for that product. So the steps that our engineers would need to follow for resolving common issues or basic triage and the escalation policies for that. You can also add notes if you want to add a special note about a certain type of alert or activities, maybe just a FYI guys, this is going on, this could be triggered because of this. You can set that to specific alerts across all. This is probably the most complete actionable playbook that we have. So on this is based on the name of the alert that's fed in, that we are feeding them an escalation matrix for that product and service. We're also feeding the customer contact details, so the stakeholders that they need to notify immediately accessible for them based on their customer ID that we're fed in with the alert. And then of course we have our own Splunk knowledge base, which is our guide of easy steps for investigation, some of the searches that might be useful for them, or triage steps that may be useful for them to resolve this incident. So then this is just for our ITSI alerts come in, this brings them into the notable events view, where we can group our alerts into it. So this is just a filtering criteria here for one of these. This is a notable event aggregation policy. So as you can see here, I'm grouping all our alerts that have the tag conf, and I'm ignoring ones that are unknown or do not match the info. So it's just some way to bring all your alerts, aggregate them together in an easy to reference place. Now I've shown you the action rules, I've talked you to the HTTP event collector. There's a couple other things I wanted to touch on what VictorOps offers that I find really useful, other than just the rules engine, the routing key. So maintenance mode as an admin. So when I know there's work going on in our customer environment, it's going to cause a lot of white noise for engineers. From here, I can mute those alerts, so it's not going to cause any unwanted noise for engineers, and they can just ignore it until the maintenance is finished. One of the other items that I find great is my role with incident manager is the post-incident reviews. For me, I can filter based on the routing key, the time of these incidents were taking place, and I can generate a quick reference PDF format report from start to finish of an incident. This is really useful for me when it goes to our post-incident reviews and our root cause analysis meetings. So I'm able to identify when we were notified, how long it took our engineers to action on this, and then how long the whole process and impact lasted for before it was resolved. So that's a lot of the things I wanted to show you. Some of the other things that I think are very useful is just, so in the timeline here for engineers, they have the easy reference of the teams who are on call and their different schedules. They can quickly see at one click who's available to them to assist if there is an issue. So this also, without teams, you can just see who's online. If you want to send a question, you can just do it with a tag for them in your timeline here. This allows our teams to collaborate much more effectively when it comes to resolving these incidents. So I think that's pretty much us done with our demo. Ooh. Oh, one more. There we go. So where to next? What are we planning to do? So we want to make VictorOps the center of our universe. So in my eyes, I see Splunk and ITSI and the other Splunk products that we use. They are the backbone of our monitoring, while VictorOps is more what I see as the brain of it. So it allows us to be more effective and think about what we're doing and have an easy resolution path for engineers to follow. I'm looking forward to rolling out ITSI to across our whole stack and to onboard more of our teams into VictorOps. It's been an ongoing project for a while, but I'm looking forward to getting it completed. Next, we're looking to move away from Nagios to implement the SAI, Splunk for Infrastructure Monitoring. This is to allow us to bring all our monitoring into one umbrella that we're already familiar with. And also because I hate Nagios. but that's just me. And the DevOps pipeline, we are looking to onboard our DevOps team because up until now we haven't had them using our Splunk infrastructure, so we want to get them more involved in its use. I think from the talks that have been ongoing, that'll be more of a headache for me in the future when it comes to configuring that, but we'll get there. System there, again, Splunk and ITSI is the backbone of our future monitoring framework with VictorOps as the brain. This is in an aim to make our engineers' life as simple as possible and to allow them to be as effective in their jobs and to ensure our customers get the best possible service we can. We want to limit the amount of downtime their end users face and the impact they face in case of any incidents or issues. So we have a few minutes for a Q&A. We'll take any questions, and myself and Daryel will be here for a few minutes afterwards to answer any questions you might have. So if you have any questions, shout. Yep.
So the maintenance mode, does that turn the entire system into maintenance mode, or can you do this for a specific?
You can just do it for a specific service or alert, depending on what you've set up, or a routing key, whichever way you want to configure it.
Does it affect ITSI as well when you do that?
Pardon?
The maintenance mode, does it actually?
Does it feed back into ITSI? No. This is just for the VictorOps maintenance mode. If you want to do it in ITSI, you need to set that in ITSI. Because you can mute, you can. To be fair, maybe you can do it, but we just haven't set it up to do it. Because maintenance mode are mainly used for when we're performing upgrades on the customer platforms. So rather than muting all our alerts, we just want to mute specific alerts for that customer. And because of I try and be as generic with our routing keys or alerts and just differentiate by the customer IDs. So I kind of mute it by the customer ID, so then we are still seeing all the active alerts for other customers. Anyone else? No problem. Yep.
I have a question regarding the organizational things around VictorOps, for instance. Who owns the playbooks and alerts? Can teams edit them themselves, or is this a kind of service?
Yeah, so the actionable playbooks, they're created a lot of them are set up by our team. So the teams that support it are the ones who feed that into our team. So they are for one of our product teams might go. So when we onboard their product into the Service Operations Center, they provide us with a support handbook, and in that they will have a lot of common triage steps, the correct escalation procedures, and from that we can feed that information to our engineers and set it up so our engineers can access it. Also, other teams can do it for themselves. So other team leads, as long as they've set up the right access policies on the VictorOps, they'll be able to do it themselves too. So
it's a live book. If we see something new in the platform, we throw it into the run book to help us in the future. So just collaboration with the teams, ensuring that new information is always funneled into the right people.
Storybooks that you create to incident storybooks. Is it hard to set up, and does it give baseline information like this was our baseline, this is the steady state that we saw 24 hours, 1 week prior to the incident?
So, for the playbooks, do you mean, is it, or?
For the incident after action.
Okay, for the incident reviews? So yeah, well, we usually run an incident review meeting within a couple of days of an incident because we want to keep while it's fresh and while our engineers. So it's up to me I usually have to schedule them and get everybody who was involved in the resolution into that meeting to ensure we have the correct steps. And then from that meeting, if we have any steps to improve or actions that we need to take, it'll be up to me to ensure that those actions are followed through on by all the teams required and to pass that knowledge on to my team.
My question was,
oh, sorry.
Do you have to build the information, do you have to say what the baseline of that service, how it ran 24 hours, 1 week prior?
Well, that'll be fed in from your alerting from the monitoring, so it's, and with ITSI you can see it, you can feed that in much easier. You can feed in the live swim lane data from ITSI as well. So.
Do you do automations in the runbooks right now?
So for automate, we haven't really looked too far into it. It's one of the things that is on my list to tackle further down the line. But at the moment, we're curated runbooks, so it's to show so the easy steps for the engineers to follow. It might be some of it may be just the script's location that they need to run to resolve the issue, or if we can, we trigger the resolution within Splunk based on a triggered action. So we try and keep it as little touch as possible, but we're building up our steps slowly but surely. So we're building more functionality as we make more use of it as the need arises too. Any other questions? No? Okay, thanks very much
All right.
for your time.